please give a big hand to Dr. Anthony Perillo. He's the Chief Wellness Officer from the Holistic Medical Group here in Thailand, I believe. นะครับขอเสียงปรบมือให้กับดร. Anthony Perillo นะครับซึ่งมาจากทาง Holistic Medical Group นะฮะซึ่งจะมาทำให้เรารู้จักนะครับว่าสรุปแล้วน้ำมันตับปลาเนี่ยมีคุณค่าอย่างไรบ้างและมันช่วยชีวิตของเราได้อย่างไรบ้างนะครับ Dr. Anthony Perillo, please. Thank you.
Sawadee Cup. We're going to install a presentation here. I'm doing a brief talk on omega-3. It's going to be about 5 or 7 minutes. Okay, I've entitled this omega-3 fatty acids, fish for brains, but it's all good. Next slide. You've heard the phrase omega-3s many, many times. There are the primary source of omega-3s we're talking about today are fish oils, but there are a few other sources of omega-3s as well, including flaxseed oils, algae, seaweed, and a little bit harder to get to breast milk. Omega-6s are another fatty acid that you'll hear a lot about because really it's our decrease in omega-3s over the last 100 years that has at least contributed to a greater incidence of a number of chronic diseases. Omega-6s are found in our vegetable oils, specifically corn oil, soy oil, and safflower oil. I've labeled these the good and the bad. We're not going to get into the ugly, but those would be the trans fats. Okay, our relationship with fatty acids. As recently as 150 years ago, the ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s was 1-to-1. Most of our ancestors consumed a fair amount of fish. And when they weren't consuming fish, they were consuming wild game. Okay, the balance of those omega-6s and omega-3s was 1-to-1. Now it's 10-to-1. Now it's 20-to-1. That ratio results in a rather dramatic shift in our disease prevalence. Next slide. This shift occurred at the same time our farming practices shifted to producing and extracting oil from the products noted up here, the corn, soy, and safflower. Roughly 80% of the fats that Americans consume, and most of the West, are actually these omega-6 fatty acids. Here's a list of some of the sources of omega-3s. You can get them from some eggs in the grocery stores now, but I don't know if you've tried to eat these eggs. They taste like fish. Next slide, please. Okay. Key thing to remember about fatty acids, all fat are not bad. Our brains are made out of fat. Roughly 60% of our brains is actually made out of omega-3s. DHA specific, which is the key component, one of the two key components in the omega-3 fish oils. Every cell in your body is composed of these fatty acids. Any alteration in the balance of those fatty acids, the omega-3s and omega-6s, dramatically changes every cellular function. That results in the following disease patterns. Okay. When your when your ratio of these fatty acids changes, it increases your risk to a number of conditions, specifically your bone health risk. Your risk of osteoporosis goes up rather dramatically with a diet based on primarily omega-6s. That risk can be normalized by adding omega-3s. It also, the shift in the balance increases your risk of inflammatory type of arthritis as well. Heart disease risk is increased dramatically when your diet shifts towards omega-6s away from the omega-3s. And certain forms of cancer are more prevalent in your diets heavy in the bad fats. If you add omega-3s to your diet, it slows the aging process through a number of mechanisms. It controls normal gene function. It helps regulate your metabolism. If you want to lose weight, you better be getting enough omega-3s or it won't happen. Confers heart protection by decreasing cholesterol levels, reducing blood clotting, and minimizing the risk of irregular heartbeats. Has a positive effect on reducing inflammation throughout the body. specifically the inflammatory types of arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, and a few others. It decreases your risk and actually helps treat inflammatory bowel disease. And it will decrease your tendency towards allergies. We believe now the research is substantial that it may even delay or possibly prevent Alzheimer's disease in certain high-risk groups. Promotes normal brain function. In fact, there are a number of researchers out there that feel that a significant proportion of mental disorders is due to this dramatic shift from omega-3s to omega-6s over the past 150 years. It's also necessary for normal, healthy skin. How do you know if you need omega-3s? And by the way, if anybody's interested at the end, we'll email you this quick little questionnaire. But we'll go through this in about 1 minute. If you answer yes to any of these, it increases the probability that you need omega-3s. If you have soft, cracked, brittle nails, dry, itchy, scaly, or flaky skin, if you have hard earwax, chicken skin, these are little bumps on the back of your arms, if you have dandruff, if you tend to have achy or stiff joints, if you have a tendency towards thirst, if you're constipated. Constipation in this sense is less than 2 bowel movements per day. If your stools are light-colored, hard, and foul-smelling, that's another good indication. You probably need some extra omega-3s. If you have depression, ADD or memory loss, high blood pressure, fibrocystic breast, PMS, if you have a heart risk panel with high LDLs, low good cholesterol, high bad cholesterol or high triglycerides, or if you are genetically from those of Northern Europe, chances are, if you answer yes to any of these, actually if you answer to 4 or more of these, you probably need some extra omega-3s. Unless, of course, you're eating at least 5 servings of cold water fish every week. This information was taken from a book of a friend of mine, Dr. Ken Hyman. Unless you're consuming fish on a very regular basis, or eating a lot of spirulina, or rummaging around for wild game, chances are you'll benefit from omega-3. It's crucial that when you identify your source of omega-3, you look for those companies that have assayed the product and identified or determined that there is no significant levels of mercury. Most omega-3 fatty acid fish oil supplements contain a variety of amounts of mercury. We know mercury is not good for you in any dose. There are a few conditions that might alter the dose of omega-3 you need. In general, we put all of our patients on about 3,000 milligrams or 3 capsules of omega-3 per day. Certain conditions, we will increase the dosage. If you have a tendency towards bleeding, we might slightly decrease the dosage. But everybody needs to be on omega-3s.